So I had picked up four of the um Throne of the Eldraine brawl decks. One is Wild Bounty, which is a green white blue deck. Another one's Knight's Charge, which is red white black. Another one is Faerie Scheme, which is white blue black. And the last one is Savage Hunger, which is black, red, green. I think I'll start with the Faerie Schemes one. Brawl is similar to Commander in the sense that it's a singleton um, format with a commander, if you will, except Brawl is 60 cards instead of 100. So just a minor difference. So the Faerie Schemes, the um, kind of suggested commander is Alela, Artful Provocateur. Um, she's a 2/3 legendary creature, a fairy warlock for one, a white, a blue, and a black. Flying, Death Touch, Lifelink. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+0. Whenever you cast an artifact or enchantment spell, create a 1/1 blue fairy token with flying. So, obviously, you know, a little bit of keyword soup buffs flying creatures and puts out flying creatures for playing um, either enchantments or artifacts. So I have a feeling this will be a um, artifact themed deck. It has a deck box that's a little bit bigger than the deck itself, but it has um, a divider to give you some extra space, I guess, if you wanted to put more cards in there for storage, or if you had extra thick sleeves, maybe, because I don't think um, 60 sleeves would need that much space, extra space. And then there's kind of a um, paper with a description of each of the four decks and their commander, and then it on the back it kind of gives you a welcome to Brawl. Here's some reference points and tips. Um, so at the back they actually had just kind of a extra, nothing card. One of the first cards besides the commander is Mace of the Valiant. It's an artifact equipment for two in the planes. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on Mace of Variant and has Vigilance. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a charge counter on Mace of Valiant. Equip cost is 3. Shimmer Dragon. It's a 5/6 creature, a dragon for 4 and 2 islands. It has flying, which I'm pretty sure every dragon has flying, but I could be wrong. As long as you control 4 or more artifacts, Shimmer Dragon has hexproof. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, draw a card. So even, um, you know, creatures have some benefit to, artifacts and equipments in this deck apparently. Workshop Elders. It's a 4/4 creature, a human artificer, for 6 and an island. Artifact creatures you control have flying. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have target non creature artifact you control become a 0/0 artifact creature. If you do, put 4/1/1 counters on it. So that's pretty cool. You could have your Soul Ring become a 4/4 creature, and then um, artifact creatures you control have flying. So between having your Soul Ring become a 4/4 flyer and your commander giving +1/+0 to creatures with flying, something that cost 1 thanks to this creature becomes a 5/4 flyer. Banish into Fable. It's an instant for 4 and plains and an island. When you cast a spell from your hand, copy it if you control an artifact. Then copy it if you control an enchantment. You may choose new targets for the copies. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. You create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. So basically, if you have an artifact and an enchantment, you're returning up to 3 non-land permanents to their owner's hand and creating 3 2/2 white knight tokens that was vigilance. 6 convert man cost of 6 might seem like a lot, but to potentially return up to 3 cards to your opponent's hand and then get 3 tokens that have vigilance, that's pretty decent. Smothering Tithe. It's an enchantment for 3 and a plains. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If the player doesn't, you create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. So basically, I can get some, free mana because I'm creating tokens if my opponents don't pay 2 when they're drawing a card. Sephara Skyblade. It's a 7/7 legendary creature, an angel for 4 and 3 plains. So where it's a legendary creature, it could be a commander, just not for this deck because it's mono white and this deck's white, blue, black. You may pay a plains and tap 4 untapped creatures you control with flying rather than play this spell's mana cost. So instead of 4 and 3 plains, you could pay a single plain and tap 4 untapped creatures. If you had some 1/1s, that might be worth it to tap 4 of those and pay 1 mana instead of paying, 7 mana, 3 of which is, um, color specific. Other creatures you control with flying have indestructible. Oh, this guy, this angel also has flying and lifelink, so a 7/7 with flying and lifelink, giving other flyers indestructible. That's pretty decent. High man cost, but decent, pretty decent. Massacre Girl. This one can be pretty fun depending on the deck and your opponents. It's a 4/4 legendary creature, a human assassin for 3 and 2 swamps. Where it's a legendary creature, it could be a commander for a mono black deck if you wanted. Has Menace. When Massacre Girl enters the battlefield, each other creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever a creature dies this turn, each other each creature other than Massacre Girl gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So if you're playing against a token deck, if they have a bunch of 1/1s, nuke their board, and then because more creatures died, you're hitting everything else that didn't die with more -1/-1 counters. The downside is it is hitting your stuff, but if most of your stuff's flying and you have this guy out to give your other flying stuff indestructible, your stuff's not getting destroyed. And there's maybe some other workarounds. We have Kaya's Wrath. It's a sorcery for 2 planes and 2 swamps. Destroy all creatures. You gain life equal to the number of creatures you control that were destroyed this way. So kind of something I would expect from a black-white card, destroying but life gain at the same time. Bag of Holding. The artifact for 1. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. You can pay 2 and tap to draw a card, then discard a card, or you can pay 4 and tap, sacrifice Bag of Holding, return all cards exiled with Bag of Holding to their owner's hands. So, I mean, yes, um, drawing a card to discard a card that's going to get exiled, that's kind of a very iffy trade off. If you have a lot of good stuff in your hand, but you can down the line sacrifice this to bring all of those cards back to your hand, assuming one of your opponents doesn't destroy this artifact before you sacrifice it to return those exile cards. Temple of Silence. It's a land. Temple of Silence enters the battlefield tapped. When Temple of Silence enters the battlefield, scry 1, and you can tap to add a plains or a swamp. We have Watery Grave. It's a land, and it does, in that line that says land, does say island or swamp, or island swamp, so you could search for this if you have a fetch land, that says, you know, search for an island, search for a swamp. You could search for this because it's either or on that line. And it has a rule reminder, tap for the island symbol or the swamp symbol. As Watery Grave enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. And I'm not sure why those 2 were there alone, because we're going back to non-land cards. A lot of times they put the land cards together, but not in this case, I guess. All the glitters. It's a enchantment aura for 1 in the plains. Enchant creature. Enchant creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. So where this kind of leans into the enchantment and auras, um, that has potential to buff a creature pretty big, depending on how many you have on the battlefield or in your hand to play. Animating Fairy is the name of the creature, but it's kind of a split card where it's also a sorcery. You could play the sorcery first, and then the card will go to exile for you to play the creature part for the mana cost at the top. So the sorcery adventure is Bring to Life. It's 2 in an island. Target non-creature artifact you control becomes a 0/0 artifact. Put 4/1/1 counters on it. And then the creature part, the animating fairy, costs 2 in um, 2 in an island. Obviously, a creature. The creature type's fairy. The 2/2 is flying. Corridor Monitor. Almost feels like we should be back to school with a hall monitor. It's a 1/4 artifact creature, a construct for 1 in an island. When Corridor Monitor enters the battlefield, untap target artifact or creature you control. Frogify. It's a enchantment aura for 1 in an island. Enchant creature. Enchant creature loses all abilities and is a blue frog creature with base power and toughness 1/1. It loses all other card types and creature types. So decent for dealing with an opponent's creature that you don't want to deal with, or if for some reason you want to turn off an annoying component of one of your creatures, but none of the creatures so far have been that annoying that I'd want to make one of my creatures a 1/1 with no abilities. Witching Well. It's an artifact for a single island. When Witching Well enters the battlefield, it's scry 2. The reminder text says look at the top 2 cards of your library, then put any number of them on the bottom of your library and the rest on the top in any order. You can pay 3 in an island to sacrifice Witching Well, draw 2 cards. So kind of helpful where you can um, scry 2 and, you know, figure out if you want those 2 cards or if you want to put them at the bottom if they're not what you need. It's an artifact in a deck that cares about artifacts and enchantments. And for 4 and sacrificing it, you can get card advantage by drawing 2 cards. Shine Chaser. It's a 1/1 creature, a fairy for 1 in a plains and an island. Has flying and vigilance. Shine Chaser gets +1/+1 as long as you control an artifact. Shrine Chaser gets +1/+1 as long as you control an enchantment. So, I mean, its base is a 1/1, but it has potential to be up to a 3/3 before you add any kind of enchant creatures or whatever. Arcanist Owl. It's a 3/3 artifact creature, a bird with um, four hybrid um, pipes. It's whiter blue, whiter blue, whiter blue, whiter blue. So depending on how much mana you have of one or the other, you could do four white, or you could do four blue, or any combination of white and blue. Um, and if you have other stuff that you needed to play this turn, like let's say you had six mana, you had four blue and two white, you know, maybe you do two white, two blue, and save the two blue for something else. Um, whatever makes sense depending on when you're playing that card. Golden Egg. It's an artifact food for two mana. When Golden Egg enters the battlefield, draw a card. You can pay one, tap and sacrifice Golden Egg to add one mana of any color. Or you could tap two, tap and sacrifice Golden Egg, you gain three life. So it's almost like a cross between a food token and I don't remember which one is the one that taps for mana. I know there's three different tokens. One to, one token taps to add three life, which I believe is a food token. One to taps and sacrifices for mana, and one taps and sacrifices for gaining. Or so I already said gaining life. So the last one's to draw a card, and I never remember if Clue is the one that draws a card or if Clue is the one that taps and sacrifices for mana. But it almost seems like this card combines two out of those three different tokens. Arcane Signet. I mean, this is a brawl deck, not a commander deck, but this seems like a staple in most commander decks, so it seems like it would be a staple in brawl decks too. It's an artifact that costs two. You tap to add one mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Um, where this is brawl, but you still have a commander, I'm pretty sure that would apply the same way. Angelic Exhalation. It's an enchantment for three in the plains. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets plus X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So, it seems like this card would be something good in an Exalted deck. Nothing I've seen in here so far has given Exalted or had Exalted on it, but attacking alone um, was the exalted um, keyword theme. So um, if you haven't heard of it, I guess Google it. But each instance of exalted gave a creature attacking alone plus one, I believe. And then I want to say there was a creature that gave all other creatures exalted, regardless of whether it had it or not. It would give, another instance of exalted. A central blade. It's an artifact equipment. When a central blade enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, then attach a central blade to it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. The equip cost is 1. The reminder text says to tap 1 mana attached to target creature you control. Equip only as a sorcery. Um, Conclave Tribunal. It's an enchantment for 3 in a plains. Convoke. The reminder text says your creatures can help cast a spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 or 1 mana of that creature's color. When Conclave Tribunal enters the battlefield, exile a target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Conclave Tribunal leaves the battlefield. So, it's an enchantment that kind of deals with an opponent's creature, gets it off the battlefield until this enchantment leaves the battlefield, which there's enough enchantment removal, but kind of helpful for temporarily getting rid of an annoying card. Prison Realm. It's an enchantment for 2 in a plains. When Prison Realm enters the battlefield, exile a target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls until Prison Realm leaves the battlefield. So, kind of, same thing as the last card, only costs 1 mana less, and it can target planeswalker in addition to targeting a creature. When Prison Realm enters the battlefield, scry 1, so another card kind of letting you take a look at the top card of your library and saying top or bottom, depending on, if the card's what you need. Chemist or Insight. It's an instant for 3 in a island. Draw 2 cards. Jumpstart. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs. Then exile the card. I can't Jumpstart kind of feels like Flashback, but Flashback usually is a slightly higher converted mana cost than the original casting cost, whereas this is the original casting cost plus discarding a card. So discarding a card or maybe an extra 1 to 3 converted mana cost for a flashback. Like, I could go either way on what I'd rather pay. Winged Words. It's a sorcery for 2 in an island. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a creature was flying, which there were a handful of creatures was flying, so wouldn't be uncommon to have that on when you draw this card. And then you draw 2 cards. So either 1 in an island or 2 in an island to draw 2 cards. Next we have Blood-Soaked Altar. It's an artifact for 4 and 2 swamps. Tap, pay 2 life, discard a card, sacrifice a creature, create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So basically, you have to cast it on your turn. 2 life, discarding a card and sacrificing a creature seems like a lot. You're getting a 5/5 with flying. So maybe about even though kind of disadvantaged yourself to put it out there. Law Mage's Binding. It's an enchantment aura for 1 plains in this island. Has flash, enchant creature. enchanted creature can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So instead of exiling a creature like a couple earlier enchantments, it's just um, basically preventing the creature from attacking or blocking or activating abilities. Next, we have Mortify, which is an instant for one, a plains in a swamp. Destroy target creature or enchantment. So instead of, um, having something on the battlefield that can't be used, you're destroying it. Empyrean Eagle, it's a 2/3 creature, a bird spirit, has flying. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. Heraldic Banner, it's an artifact for 3. As Heraldic Banner enters the battlefield, choose a color. Creatures you control of the choosing color get +1/+0. Tap to add 1 mana of the chosen color. Um, Shambling Suit, it's an artifact creature, a construct for 3. The power is star and the toughness is 3. Shambling Suit's power is equal to the number of artifacts and or enchantments you control. So where a lot of artifacts and enchantments has the potential to maybe have a power of 5 or 10 or maybe more. Scrambling Claws, it's an artifact for 1. Tap, target player exiles a card from their graveyard. Or pay 1, sacrifice Scrambling Claws, exile target card from a graveyard, draw a card. Guild Globe, and it almost looks like a snow globe in the artwork. It's an artifact for 2. When Guild Globe enters the battlefield, draw a card. Tap 2 and the artifact. Sacrifice Guild Globe, add 2 mana of different colors. So a lot of times when you have a mana rock, tapping for mana, it's usually like tap for the same color if it's more than one, but in this case, it's tap for 2 of different colors, given it's a one time thing because you're sacrificing it to tap for those 2 different colors. Mana Geode, it's an artifact for 3. When Mana Geode enters the battlefield, scry 1. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. So 3 mana for the ability to add 1 mana of any color seems high. Like, yes, the scry ability on entering the battlefield is nice, but I don't think that offsets the card being 3 to tap for 1 mana. And looks like we got to the basic lands now. So, so we have 6 plains, 5 islands, uh, 4 swamps, and actually we have some non-basic lands behind where the basic lands were. Azurus Guildgate, it's a land gate. Azurus Guildgate enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add a plains or a swamp. Commander Tower, kind of a staple in Commander decks, so would make sense to be a staple in Brawl decks too. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your Commander color identity. Demeter Guildgate, it's a land gate. Demeter Guildgate enters the battlefield tap. Tap to add a island or swamp. Demeter Backwater, As the land, Dimir Backwire enters the battlefield tapped. When Dimir Backwire enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap to add an island or a swamp. Emergence Zone. Tap to add a colorless or tap 1 and this land. Sacrifice Emergence Zone. You may cast spells this turn as though they had flash. Evolving Wilds. Sacrifice, tap and sacrifice Evolving Wild. Search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. I mean, it's kind of interesting that you're tapping this if you're going to sacrifice it, but it's possible your opponents might have something to tap stuff to prevent you from tapping this to sacrifice it. Orzhov Guildgate. It's a land gate. Orzhov Guildgate enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add a island or swamp. Scorch Barrens. It's a land. Scorch Baron enters the battlefield tapped. When Scorch Barrens enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap to add a plains or swamp. Tranquil Cove. It's a land. Tranquil Cove enters the battlefield tapped. When Tranquil Cove enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap to add a swamp, or not swamp, a plains or an island. So that was all of the Faries schemes from Brawl Deck from the Throne of Eldraine. Hopefully you found some value in this. Check out some other Magic related content on my channel, and please keep checking back if you don't already, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you'll see more content like this. Thanks and have a good day.